With me today is Brent Gambrell, and I don't know Brent personally yet. I feel like we have a connection, and you'll probably spot this as we talk here.
We do.
Shortly, but Brent Gambrell is our guest on Mike the Baptist. Brent, I need to tell you a couple of things first. It's not your typical churchy program.
I'm good with that. I'm not your typical churchy guy.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. And the goal of the program is to talk about faith and the Bible and stuff like that in a non-churchy way, because it's my experience that if you talk too churchy, some folks will turn you off.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear them, let them hear regular Joes talk like regular Joes about that sort of stuff.
Sure.
So that's the focus of it. Now, in an odd twist, you can ask me questions. If something overwhelms you and bubbles up, and you can ask me questions.
Okay.
So
I'll think through that.
I think it's going to get off the rails anyway.
It might. Yeah,
it looks
maybe.
like it may be.
I've been warned.
And the only other rule is I don't want any churchy answers from either one of us. Now, if you get real churchy,
I like that. So if I say premillennial dispensationism, okay, we got that.
That one will get a couple right there. So the goal is to talk about this stuff in regular terms.
You got it. Absolutely. That's where I am.
Okay. Well, that being said, then since I don't know you and you ask, did I want you to send me a copy of your book, which we'll get to, I said nope, because I don't want to prepare.
Good.
I'm never prepared, so why start now? So what we want to do is see if we can get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
I'm going to call you up here on the screen so we can see your face now.
Okay.
This is Brent Gambrell. If you're watching.
Did you go to my website? That's frightening.
No, this is you live.
Oh, good. Hi, wherever you are. Hi there. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Tell me where you came from.
I was raised in Florida, a little north of Orlando. And you know, actually I was raised in, I always like to tell people I was raised in Astatula.
Huh?
Astatula. Not Bastabula, the old song, if you remember. It was Astatula, Florida.
Astatula, Florida.
It's right next to Ocklawaha, Yalaha, Weewahitchka, and right down the Withlacoochee.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, you know, everybody knows that.
Oh yeah.
And it's literally and I was in the suburbs of Astatula too. So and there are rednecks in Florida, lots of them, and that's where I was raised.
Rednecks in Astatula.
And well, would you be anything else?
I guess you couldn't.
Yeah. I was raised literally on a muck farm, outside of a muck farm.
Okay, hold on. I'm losing my place here really quick. So you were born in Florida, in Astatula.
Yep.
Amongst rednecks. And you were raised on a muck farm?
Basically, that's where our property was. It's sod. If you've ever had sod for your front yard.
Is that what
this
muck
was a
is?
Sod farm.
Is that what muck is?
Yeah, muck is swampy, muddy, and you can grow lots of sod on it, and that's what they did. So it was just fields and fields of grass everywhere, and then swamp.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This I never knew.
I know. Where does sod come from? Well, it comes from Astatula.
Why the word muck?
I don't know. I've never figured that out. But it does catch on fire because there's oil underneath it, and it was kind of like, did you ever see Princess Bride, the movie with the fire swamp that fire would come up? It was on fire for years underground. It was hilarious. It was an interesting way to grow up. It really was. Little town, grew up in a little town and wanted to get out of there and did, and chose the wrong path to get out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. That's perfect. Exactly.
Yeah.
So where'd you go?
I ended up really, honestly, at 19, I ended up in Tampa, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I blackmailed two men and took their company, and it was a singing telegram service that had strippers.
Okay.
And I opened in 6 cities.
That's pretty common. I mean,
everybody does that. Now, come on, it's a common story of the little kid in the small town that runs a stripper service across the state of Florida.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of thing. That old chestnut.
Where'd you go to? Where'd you wind up?
Tampa, Florida.
Tampa.
Had offices in Jacksonville and Fort Lauderdale and all kinds of places.
So I don't know. I have to ask what you did there.
I ran a company of about 328 people. It was like a telegram service, singing telegrams, but they were strippers, most of them. We still had singers and balloons and gorillas suits and all that, but we had a lot of women and men that took their clothes off.
Okay.
And there was some escorting on the side and stuff like that, and so that's where
Gorilla's the last thing I heard.
Yeah, we had gorilla suits. You delivered balloons and all kinds of stuff. So it was a singing telegram service on the surface, but there was a lot more underneath.
Right.
And yeah, until God got a hold of me and shut the whole thing down and fired everybody.
Okay. Honestly, I don't know. This ramped up to like 65 in 3 seconds.
You wanted it to be unchurchy, dude.
It's unchurchy, but so
people have said, I always usually my quote testimony, which I just love. My testimony is what God's doing to me today.
Yes,
it's not. I hate when people glorify their past, and so
that's just a little bit.
Oh, a little churchy. Yeah. Sorry, I just don't even like the word. God, what's happened to me today is what I love. I don't like really. My past brought me here. That's great.
Yeah, it's just I'm just interested to know how people wind up as crazy as they are, because I don't think you're born insane. I think you kind of slowly get there, and there's things you go through to get you there.
Sure,
so absolutely. That's why I asked. But I had no idea it was going to be this rapid fire.
It was money. It was. I mean, there was money involved in that. That's what brought me there. It was. I saw the money, and I got. It's a long story, dude. It's a bad B movie. But that's what took me as far down that road as I could go.
Okay.
And then it literally drove me crazy.
So we've established that you left Astotula.
I can't believe you doesn't know where it is.
You left Astotula.
Exactly.
And the wheels sound like they fell off in a lot of ways there after a little while, did they?
Really? Yeah.
Kind of sounds like that might have.
Yeah, I mean, it was money and drugs and all that kind of stuff that led me to go there. And I was raised in a good home. I mean, you know, and I counsel a lot of kids to this day, students all over the nation, and it always drives me crazy when parents blame themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times do you know a great set of a great family, wonderful parents with just weird kids, and then I know these weirdo families that are horrible, have no morals, with incredible kids. You know what I mean? And so my family was. I don't blame my family at all. It was. I looked at kind of money and drugs and all that, and went, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah, I was raised by my grandparents, and it wasn't their fault. The stuff I did.
No, absolutely.
In fact, I didn't even know about a lot of it.
Yeah.
You said all over the country talking to people. Why are you all over the country talking to people?
Well, I travel as a speaker. That's what I do now. I travel as a speaker. Of course, not in the last 19 months because we had a little disease.
A little hiccup.
Yeah, a little hiccup. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I started traveling a long time ago. I actually started traveling a comedy team before I started traveling as a speaker.
This is getting better all the time.
Yeah. I ended up shutting down a
comedy team.
Yes, I ended up shutting down the stripper service, moving to Nashville because of Loretta Lynn. Long story again. My parents happened to be friends with the family, and I moved here to do background vocals to Nashville, and because I was a singer.
Okay.
There's a little trip to Europe in there where I did that to be a singer, and then ended up in Nashville, and 6 months later was on staff at a Baptist church, Mike the Baptist.
Really?
Yep, I was on staff.
Doing what? What were you doing?
Oh, I ran the Christian Life Center, and I passed out racquetballs, and they asked me, they put me in front of the students. And
said what? Tell them you ran a stripper?
Oh, dude, when they first the church will ruin you if you don't watch it. I mean, honestly, they put me in front of students. I, to this day, say that it was wrong. I knew nothing. I was a baby Christian, and they shoved me because of my personality in front of students and in front of people without discipling me first, without teaching me anything.
Is this where you came out of your shell?
This is where
were you already out of your shell? I got a feeling you were already out of your shell.
I don't know what a shell is. I don't think I was ever. I have such a weird path. Dude, I was speaking for the American Cancer Society when I was 12, 13, 14. They were flying me around Florida, speaking to Rotary clubs about testicular cancer. It was just the weirdest. I have the weirdest background. Yeah. So I was always in front of people, but the church stuck me in front of people without teaching me anything. And fifth graders were telling me that when I was telling about the Bible story that I was doing it wrong. They were correcting me. So, yeah.
But you jumped in there with both feet and
I did.
Gave it a shot anyway.
Happened to have a pastor and a group of guys that discipled me and taught me for years. Oh, the word disciple is not even right?
No. The word's okay, but the trick is how you say it.
How you say it. So they taught me Bible stuff. Is that good?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
I like that.
They taught me Bible stuff.
That'll work, because anybody can understand that.
Yeah, got it. They taught me how to live.
So this was at a Baptist church in Tampa?
No, in Nashville.
Well, see, I'm losing. You're just leaving me
I got
behind.
here Loretta Lynn brought me here to the background vocals, and I ended up 6 months later, literally on a church staff. And the pastor said, I said, you don't want me on church staff. And he said, well, tell me what you've done. And I did. And 30 minutes later, he was crying. And he said, it must have been horrible. I said, no, it was a lot of fun. You apparently weren't there, were you? I told him, and I used to tell everybody, look, this was fun. It destroyed me, but it was fun for a while.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the...
If you bled every time you sinned, you'd stop.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's part of the draw, is it?
It was fun for us. You know, jumping off a roof is great. It's the rocks at the bottom that hurt.
Right.
You know?
Well...
I love this. I've got him tongue-tied. That's great.
You do, and that's hard to do. I'll just tell you. That's hard to do.
That's my past. That's what brought me...
The closest I've come to being tongue-tied in years is I used to teach an adult Sunday school class at our church. And there was an old dude there. And we were talking politics for some reason that morning, just briefly.
At a church? You're kidding.
No.
That happens?
Actually, we were talking about abortion or something.
Yeah.
And the room gets silent, and this old guy looks up and says, I don't know if any of y'all were there, but his first name was Earl, just so you know. But he looks up just in the middle of nowhere in a quiet spot and says, I'll tell you one thing, that Obama's full of BS, but he said it.
I love those people, though.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with that.
I love those people, though. So, I love those people that really don't act right at church. I just love that, you know?
Yeah, he didn't. That was kind of a classic moment.
That's my favorite thing. I think that was my job for years at that church. I left the pastor shaking his head all the time. That was my job. Oh, yeah. I didn't know you were supposed to respect him.
One thing.
What you got?
We got to know, did Loretta Lynn drive you up here in a car?
No, she does the American Motocross Nationals out at her place.
Oh yeah,
and a friend of my family, been a friend for years. He owned a company called Dirt Shirts. He also did like Ocean Pacific and Lightning Bolt and part of Ron John Surf Shops and all that kind of stuff. Well, he owned the rights to a T-shirt, and my parents and he would go into their place and make T-shirts, and thousands, and they would come there with a big trailer and sell T-shirts, and that's what I did. And I ended up singing one there at the event with her two daughters, and they said, "Yeah, we're doing this thing with Roy Acuff. Mm-hmm. We're starting a new record company, and we need background vocals." And I went, "Okay," and I was turning my life around at the same time, and I had to get out of the state of Florida. Too many people knew me. And so I came here and knew nobody. Mm-hmm. And I came here with a Bible, and I sat on my back porch, and I ate grapes and read my Bible. And I literally took my Bible apart book by book. True story. Ripped it out of the back book by book, mm-hmm. and stuck it back together alphabetically with duct tape.
What did grapes have to do with it?
That's all I could afford was just, I sat on the back porch with grapes.
Grapes, gotcha.
Yeah, grapes and cheese and crackers. That's all I could afford for a long time.
I just wanted to catch up with that thought right there.
I just remember sitting there with my Bible. But I was always embarrassed sitting in church. And I know people listening to you probably feel the same way. Sitting in church and the pastor says, turn to Ecclesiastes.
Yep.
I didn't know where Ecclesiastes was,
yep.
So I ripped it out. Book by book. I didn't know why it was put together the way it was. Old Testament, New Testament, that didn't mean anything to me. Mm-hmm. He was right there next to Ephesians. Ecclesiastes and Ephesians were next to each other. It worked. It did. There's a publisher now that has an alphabetical Bible. Ticks me off. Stole my idea. Yeah. But I did that.
So that
Bible's still precious to me. Oh, absolutely it matters.
Oh, okay.
You got to know the Old Testament and New Testament. You got to know there's an old promise and a new promise.
Supposedly, as a friend of mine says, supposedly you do.
Yeah, you should probably, because
Well, I mean,
God doesn't change, but he definitely changes tactics in the Old Testament and New Testament.
This is true. I feel like I need a nap.
Good,
but we can't take a nap.
Good, okay.
But I am going to break away from things because the first segment of this program is kind of the front porch segment.
Okay.
Where we sit on the front porch, and kind of rocking chair and chat for a minute.
All right.
So then we're going to come back and we'll go into the living room and talk a little bit more about some stuff.
All right.
So we're going to break away for a second.
You got it.
Catch our breath, and we'll be back. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
True that.
Land is your land is my land. Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
If you like a little meat with your vegetables, then you might like our sister podcast, Our Land with Michael Jackson. It's a podcast for freedom-loving, liberty-chasing, common-sense Christian Americans who still believe that good can and will prevail in the struggle to survive in today's crazy society. It's a little bit politics, a little bit social commentary, and a whole lot not woke. Just search for Our Land with Michael Jackson on your favorite podcast app, or you can subscribe to get the podcast and read our posts at ourland.substack.com. Our Land is a member of Our Land Media Group, the America in the Middle.
This land was made for you and me.
Hey, we're back on Mike the Baptist. I got to say, this is the fastest episode so far.
All right.
And which is good. I'm
That's
happy
because I'm
about
on
that.
5-hour energy and coffee, dude.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, better life through chemicals.
It's fine. A friend of mine said, I was looking for some feedback last week. He said it's a little slow. So I think we're fixing part of that right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of friends of mine, I want to move into. I know you because some friends of mine at our church talked me into going to Haiti.
Yes.
And
And you didn't go with me.
I did not go with
On
you.
on one of my trips, you went with what I call the A team. You went with Kelly Mills.
Yeah, but you know what I kept hearing the whole time I was there?
What?
You should be here with Brent. You two together could cause some trouble. I thought, well, okay. Yeah.
Kelly warned me
I'm
about
down
you
for that.
coming here. She
She
said,
did.
she said, yeah. She said your ADHD and his ADHD are not going to do well.
Yeah,
together.
I think it would be combustible.
Maybe. Yeah,
Catch fire.
especially in Haiti.
So we'd be in Haiti in a tap, and it would catch on fire. So,
Probably.
but
yeah.
anyway, so I know you from there. I hadn't really met you until today. I briefly met you at our church one time. You came there and talked or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually pay attention to the speakers, but
That's good.
I did catch you in the back because I wanted to shake hands and say hi. I think I did that. But anyway, so I went to Haiti on one of these week-long trips,
Mm-hmm.
and I must say, for an old country boy that has not been to Haiti, that was a bit of an eye-opener.
Good. I'm glad.
Because of, I like people. I like different people. I like to figure out what they're about.
Mhm.
It just fascinates me that everybody on the planet is different.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go somewhere like that, they're really not different, but their culture is different. So the
Completely
culture is
different.
fascinating to me. I mean, it's like things you don't see every day. I remember going, loading up into a tap and going with a bunch of people who were going to go teach some new preachers.
Yep.
And so we rolled into this town, parked in front of the building. Everybody gets out of their tap, and I'm kind of getting out, trying to be courteous, let everybody else get out. And I'm like the last one out, and I kind of look around the corner of the tap, and there's a naked lady standing beside a pile of sand taking a shower on the sidewalk. And I'm going like, does anybody else see that?
Yeah, and you should see when they know you really well and they want to come out the front door, they see that you're coming, and the ladies are like, oh, they're going to probably take pictures, so I need to put on my good dress. And she just drops the old dress right there on the front porch.
Yes.
And then puts on a new one right in front of you.
It's
or they're bathing in the river, and they all stand up and, Pastor Brent, how you doing? I'm like, it's okay, keep bathing.
they don't teach
Stay
you
back
this
down.
in the country when you're growing up in the States.
Haitians aren't shy, not at all.
I recall too about going to somebody's house. This lady was a school teacher at the local school.
Mm-hmm.
and we were assigned. I think Kelly did this. She probably did this on purpose. But anyway, we were assigned to this house. She was a teacher, and first thing when we got in there, she wanted to make us some fresh juice. That juice they make out of is it kiwis? No, there's a fruit.
Is it the white juice, or
no?
There's 1,000 juices.
Some kind of fruit. It's green. It's similar to a kiwi.
Dude, I can't.
But she wanted to make it for us fresh.
Curacao, probably,
with a fishnet blouse on.
Well, again,
so it's like she's coming over. Are you watching this? You watching this? Oh yeah. It's great juice.
It's hot there, brother. So she was hot.
So anyway, the culture's so different.
It is different. Some of the sweetest people in the world and living in some of the harshest conditions in the world.
Well, you know, at that same house with the lady with the fishnet top, I wound up laying in the floor playing with these little cars and toys they make out of wire.
Oh,
the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Laid on the floor and played with them and arm wrestled with them. And just, I mean, they're just people like everybody else.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in that?
I am the most reluctant missionary you'll ever know in your life. I don't even like the word. I think there's words that need to leave our vocabulary, and missionary is one of them. I just feel like I'm a guy that I talk about Jesus here, I talk about Jesus there. Over there, it involves rice. You know, a lot of times we pass out rice. So I just don't see a difference. But I got involved because a buddy of mine's parents, I was teaching down at First Baptist Church Orlando for about 7 years. Every Tuesday night I'd fly from here down there. And the guy that led worship with me, his parents about 30 years earlier had started a mission down there. And it was failing. But I was traveling as a speaker at this time, and they wanted somebody to raise money for them as I traveled. You've seen World Vision speakers and Compassion International people come to your church, and then they lay out a bunch of kids' pictures, and you sponsor them. Well, they wanted me to do that, and I was like, I'm sorry, that's just too impersonal for me. I don't know those children. World Vision and Compassion both talk to me. They do great work, but it was just a little impersonal for me. I don't know that kid, and I can't talk about something I don't know. And he begged me for 3 years. It was 2.5 years. Just come and see the kid. Brent, come, meet our people. Meet them, and then you'll know them. And so finally, after about 2.5 years of coming up with every excuse in the world, you know, I don't like the heat. I'm a fat guy. I don't look good in khaki. I came up with everything, you know, that you could say. I don't own a pith helmet. I'm not a, you know, missionary. I went and I said, you got 3 days. And I showed up there, and he was such a jerk. He left me in a bungalow on the beach overnight while he went and stayed with us. I heard drums.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, well, it was on the beach, and there was a fence around me, and I heard people walking right around it was the guards. I didn't know. He didn't tell me they were going to be guards. And so I'm hearing drums in the background. I think it's voodoo drums. I found out later it was a disco down the road.
Because they do tell you when you're down there that there's voodoo is real.
The voodoo temple did pray against us every time we were there.
Yeah, they were warning us about that, too.
Yeah, but I ended up the next morning, because I didn't sleep at all, walking down the beach with him to another village that was all grass huts. And there were no kids. There were no children running around. And I asked the question, and he started asking around. Moms started coming out of the huts. They were all bawling. And a fever had hit that village. 2 nights earlier, they had already lost 4 children. 4 kids had died because of a fever now. And I said, what's going on? He said, we've run out of Tylenol for children and stuff like that in our clinic. And I went, you told me to bring Tylenol. I've got 3 suitcases in the bungalow. So we ran back down. I had kids carry the suitcases with me back down the beach. I sat under a tree and I said, bring the babies. And for about 3.5 hours, I'm a single guy. I don't know anything about babies, but I'd hold a baby in my hand and go, okay, maybe that's 4 pounds. This bottle says 3 drops. Pop, pop, pop. Give me another one. And the next day, all the babies were running around. And I went, you know what? I can't do everything, but we can help this village. It started with one village.
So that's where in your mind you saw something you could do.
I couldn't do everything, but I could do that.
Okay. So what'd you do? What'd you do then?
We started bringing a first team, and we said, all right, we're going to come in here, and we are going to bring medicines and things like that, but they need a place to sit in the shade because this place. So we built a little shelter for these people to sit and get, you know, and fix their fish and stuff like that. It started with that one little building, and it ended up being churches and schools and villages all over the place in Haiti.
Right.
And then an earthquake happened in 2010, and we had been there for years by that time.
So you were already there when the earthquake did its thing.
Oh, yeah. We were actually, horrible claim to fame is we were the first plane on the ground the night right after the first earthquake. There was the tower was broken, and I called a buddy of mine, Zach Johnson, who's a PGA golfer.
Pretty good golfer.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's the captain of the Ryder Cup this year, our team.
It's a little tournament they have.
Yeah, a little tournament. But I called him and I said, dude, I got to get there. I have babies in an orphanage, and I had an intern there. And I said, we don't know if they're alive or dead. I got to get there tonight. He said, my plane will be on my little jet will be on the tarmac tomorrow. Let's go. And they flew me there, and me and a guy named Mike Wilson ended up landing. We actually flew over the place, and we were so stupid. I look back and go, who told us we could do this? Mm-hmm. But we flew over because I was so scared to death that all of our babies in this orphanage we were taking care of at the time. I said, what? I said, I looked, we flew over one time and we saw that the tower was broken. It was in the middle of the night. And I said, there's no lights, dude. To the pilot, I said, there's no lights. What if there are cracks in the tarmac? And he said, oh, I'm a Vietnam pilot, dude. We'll bounce. It's okay. And I was like, oh, God. We landed, we got out, and these guards came out, and I had been tipping them for years, so they knew us. Mm. I'd been tipping them forever. Every connection we ever had. They ran out and they said, you cannot be Pasta Buent? What are you doing here? I said, we got babies in an orphanage, and 3 of the men had lost their entire families.
So when did A Door to Hope start? That's A Door to Hope is the name of your...
It actually started really after the earthquake. We broke away from that organization we were helping. Mm-hmm. We're still great friends with them. And we said, all right, we can do more than this in different places. Mm-hmm. And A Door to Hope sprung from that. Mm-hmm. And we developed 3 programs. We developed the Blocks of Hope, the Key to Hope, and the Foundation of Hope. Okay. Blocks of Hope, we build homes.
Okay.
Because since the earthquake especially, we had 300,000 people die, but we also had hundreds of thousands of people lost their homes, mm-hmm. and still have. There's tent cities still.
Block to Hope.
Blocks of Hope.
Quick story. That's what I did one day. I was down there, helped build a house.
Yep.
Being the curious, inquisitive mind that I am, mm-hmm. I didn't want to just hand these guys a tool. I wanted to ask them how you say what that tool is.
Yeah.
So if they pointed at a hammer, picked the hammer up, and
what is this called?
I did this to what is this called? And they would give me the word, Absolutely. And then I would hand it to them. This went on for a while, and at one point, one of them pointed to a block over there, and I picked the block up and I held it up to him, and he reached down for it, and I pulled it back, and I pointed at it, and
what is this?
And he looked at me and he said, "Block." So
yeah, anyway, and he looked at his friends like, "What a dumb American doesn't know what that is."
He busted me on the spot. That was really funny.
That's hilarious.
So one of them is a Block to Hope.
Blocks of Hope. That's how we build homes. Our homes cost between $5,500 and $6,000 now. Mm-hmm. Everything's so much more expensive now, especially since COVID. But our Blocks of Hope, the key to hope, we believe is education, mm-hmm. and so we help schools. We're going to be talking just now. We're working in the Dominican Republic with Haitians now as well, mm-hmm. and we're going to be revealing that we're going to be working on a big school over there in the Dominican.
Okay,
and then the Foundation of Hope, we believe, is the church.
Are you working still in Haiti? Because I know it got a little dangerous there for a while.
We are. We are not bringing teams. We haven't since COVID began.
Yes,
and then actually right before that, gangs started taking over Port-au-Prince, mm-hmm. and people say all the time when they come to Haiti with us, "Can you guarantee our safety?" I can't guarantee your safety in Nashville. Why would I guarantee your safety in?
I'll tell you what. When you ride in the back of one of those taps through Port-au-Prince the first time, safety is one thing you all of a sudden paying a bunch of attention to because it's like,
I can't guarantee you safety, but I can guarantee you we won't do anything stupid.
Yeah,
and so we cancel trips before anybody else would know what's going on. We have people on the ground all the time. Mm-hmm. But people say, are you still working in Haiti during this? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Because over these years, and we've been there over 20 years, we've trained enough people in Haiti mm-hmm. that since this time, food distributions, men's conferences, women's conferences, mass weddings, built home building, it's all been going on, and it's all been all Haitian. Mm-hmm. There's this word we use in the missionary field. There it is. I told you I hate the word missionary.
Easy.
It's sustainability. You hear it in every every organization that works in nonprofit. Sustainability. We want to build something that's sustainable without us. Well, then why did you build a building over there with your name on it in that third world country? We don't own anything. That's our philosophy.
Okay.
And we train people to do. We just didn't know how well we trained them until COVID.
What was the third part? Blocks
of Hope, Key to Hope, Foundation of Hope. We believe Foundation of Hope is the church.
And that's that's teaching all these new people and having them set up their own.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. In fact, the guy that's running right now, that's running the church, that's the pastor of the church that we're with right now, was my very first man I ever shook hands with in Haiti. He was my driver. He picked me up at the airport. He is now a pastor in Haiti.
That's pretty neat.
He went to seminary, and we helped pay for that, and then we lost track of him for a while. And he actually went out, found an area that didn't have a church within miles of anything. And these people begged him to come. He started a church in the school. The school failed, and I heard about it, and I called him.
So these people in Haiti, they're not born in, we live in these little, real comfortable, safe Bible Belt bubbles. And I remember when I was down there, one thing that really struck me is they had us one day going around in this village to pray with people. I'm not a big public prayer, I just don't do that publicly. I do way more than my share privately, but I'm just not a big public.
Sure.
I mean, all the big words in prayer has been used except Captain Jesus, and I'm just not going to say Captain Jesus. I mean, anyway, so.
Hey, big guy.
Yeah, hey, you're the big guy, and you know it. Anyway, give him your zip code. I
get it.
Anyway, so we were going around this village praying for people, and they wanted to take turns praying. And I said, y'all could do the praying. Internally, I'll do a lot of that, but, you can do the public praying. So, of course, we were going in these little huts built out of the sides of plastic barrels and
sticks and grass
and what's left of a chainsaw.
And 2 hours from Miami. That's what's so crazy.
Yes, but we would go in there and they would ask over and over again, is there something we could pray with you for? And I'm thinking, when they asked that, I'm thinking, these people, some of them are starving to death. I mean, I'm not sure you have to ask them. But the very last one we were at, this great friend of mine who's one of the best human beings on the planet, so nice, he asked him right at the end, says, is there something we can pray with you for? And this lady looks at him and said, yes, I'm possessed with demons. And my poor friend, okay, let's pray. So this is totally different down there.
Yeah, mystic. They call it mystic.
It's totally different.
It is. There's voodoo there. There's some demonic things. A Haitian pastor was brought here one time, and he told a buddy of mine, he said, I got to go home. He said, why? He said, because in Haiti, I see Satan for who he is. He attacks. He's the roaring lion. Yeah. But he said, I never understood that whole Bible verse that says that Satan is an angel of light. He said, I never understood that because he's like this lion that attacks us in Haiti until I came to the United States.
Oh,
he said,
really?
now I understand him as the angel of light because what he does here is he just, it's about love and joy and peace. And that's what Christianity is. And just sit in your pew and fall asleep. Just don't do anything.
Yep.
It's all about light here. And he said, I got to go home where I can see him because I can't see him here.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? I mean, I thought that was the coolest
real
perspective.
Right there.
Yeah. It was such a cool perspective. I mean, the church here, we just don't see it.
One of my favorite paintings I've ever seen, Brent, was a painting of a congregation in a church, and it was from the perspective of the pulpit looking down on the congregation, and on the front row was Jesus asleep.
Oh, that's good.
Great painting. It was really good
I preach a lot, and to look out at the congregation sometime will depress you.
Speaking of the congregation,
yes,
I'm going to put a picture up here for those of you who are watching this and not just listening. There's a picture here of the live studio audience today, and all of these guys that are here have had some sort of interaction with either a Door to Hope.
Both me and a Door to Hope. We've had a lot of interaction. Probably interaction we didn't even want. Some of them.
Yeah. So I know there's a story or two that I think you just ought to tell it.
Sure.
Because we're looking at them here. If you're watching, we're looking out at them right here.
Well, these guys to start with, I got to give props to Temple Baptist Church because honestly, one of the biggest supporters of our ministry. They really do support our organization in huge ways. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. And at the same time, a couple of your members, I just would drown in the river there in Haiti if they'd let me. Because there's one guy sitting here, wonderful guy, right there, that left me in a hospital.
Oh, this
so
one,
sick.
This one right here?
So sick. I was so sick.
Yes.
And come to find out, they were tipping a nurse to make sure I was taken care of. She kept bringing me drugs that I had no idea what they were. Every single time she walked in the room, there was a new pill or something she wanted to stick in the. And I kept going, "What's that for?" "This for nausea." I was nauseous 4 days ago. Don't give me any more. But they were tipping her.
Yes. To keep you pumped up.
To keep me pumped with stuff. I don't know what she gave me over time.
We wanted to make sure you were okay.
That's not okay. That is not okay. I'd say, "What is this for?" "Diarrhea." "I don't have diarrhea." It was hilarious. It was so funny. But yeah, then they left and took off home, and then I had to fake being well to get on a plane.
But you had to stay, if I remember that story, you had to stay for a little while, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
After that.
Oh, yeah. And they wouldn't even come in the room. Pansies.
I guess it's till you got your bowel movements back or something.
Well, they wouldn't. They stood outside a door and yelled through a window. They really, literally did that.
True story.
They were like, "Are you okay, man?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay right now."
Because it's not like down there you could just go over to the hospital.
The beautiful thing is we actually had a hospital close, and I was staying in a room next to a hospital, and they were coming over to help me. So I was taken care of. A lot better than a lot of the Haitians are. I have to say that. But, yeah, they left me, and I had to fend for myself after that.
One of the guys that I say got to know, I wasn't there really long enough to get to know anybody real well, but there's a young fellow there who, I can't remember his name. I stayed in contact with him for quite a while after coming back. And he moved over to Chile, and it seemed like at that time a lot of those people. It wasn't Pino. Did he move to Chile too? Pino was our bodyguard.
Yeah, Pino was the bodyguard. I just talked to Pino today.
Did he move to Chile?
He went over to Chile, and then he moved from Chile to. He's in Mexico right now.
Did he ever get his house built?
Yeah, and Pino. Yeah, Pino got his house.
Yeah,
built.
He was trying to build a house.
Absolutely, Pino got his house built.
Okay,
but I don't know who you're talking about who moved to Chile. There's several Haitians that went to Chile.
No, it wasn't Jacobson. It was, huh?
No, not Pierre. Pierre's still in Haiti. Pierre's our guy.
My goodness. He was at the little church that we were there. Went to a couple of church services.
Oh, Michelle?
Michelle? I remember Michelle. Yeah, I thought he moved. I didn't know he moved to Chile, but yeah.
Yeah, he was messaging me from Chile and.
Yeah.
But the
there was
reason
a
I'm
huge
asking
exodus of Haitian men to Chile.
And what was the reason?
It was work.
Okay.
And from Chile, you could get to Mexico, and from Mexico, you could get to the United States.
I see.
That's how that worked.
Okay.
And the people under the bridge, all the Haitians just a few months ago, they were under the bridge.
Right.
A lot of people from Chile.
Okay, so they made
there was this trek that they tried to take over, because if a man can get here, he can send back money to support his whole family.
Right.
And right. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I hate the immigration situation we have right now. That's a political issue.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if my kids were starving, I would sneak over too.
Yeah, it's a complicated story.
It is.
It's very complicated.
I hate it in every way, but I know people right now that literally, one guy that's sitting in Mexico, and I told him, I said, "Don't you come over right now. Don't you try to come over right now, dude." I said, "You go to the coast, you speak English, you speak Spanish, and you speak Creole, Pino."
Yeah.
Pino's there.
Yeah.
In Mexico. And
he is.
I said, "You go right now, dude." I talked to him today. I said, "You go to the coast and you get a job under the table, let them pay you cash at some resort. You speak 3 languages fluently. Do it." And he headed to the coast. That's what he's doing right now until things get better here, and then he'll try to get over here.
He was a good guy.
Good guy. Built
good
like
bodyguard.
a brick house.
Yeah, he kept us pretty safe.
He's got dreads now. Looks weird. Anyway.
Really?
If you're listening, and I'm going to send this to you, you look weird now. Anyway.
Hey, Pino, I just want to say, hey.
He looked good shaved. He had a great bald head, but he
had one of my visions I have in my head is being in a tap heading back to Port-au-Prince, leaving with Pino on a motor scooter behind us with one of my old Bluegrass on the Greenway T-shirts on.
Tap that stalled.
Huh?
It stopped in traffic that morning.
Yes.
Don't you love that?
No. Never again in my life do I want to be
Market Day
on a tap
man.
stopped in the middle of Market Day because I just don't ever want to do
You
that.
feel like you get out and go, hey, one of these things is not like the other. Yeah,
We didn't have to get out because they
Republic.
were. Yeah, they were walking up and looking, peeking through the sides of that, so they
Yeah.
knew
You gotta love it.
it was
I love
so
it.
different.
Yeah.
So different. Okay, so you got involved in this whole Haitian.
Yeah.
I got to use the word ministry.
Uh,
I'll buzz myself.
how
I gotta
about
use the word
nonprofit organization?
NPO.
There we go.
Okay.
NGO, non-governmental organization.
Yeah. So you got involved in this NGO.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd this book come from? You wrote a book.
That came. That's part of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
As a speaker, I've been doing this for a long time, and I think it's what led me into doing what I do in Haiti and the Dominican now.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of my time as a quote minister, pastor, speaker, whatever you want to call me, I tell people I'm a talker dude. That's what I do.
You do talk.
I'm a talker dude.
You're not
That's what I
afraid of
do.
that.
No.
I could
But
see that.
as a talker dude, the first half of my time doing this has been trying to tell people who they are now that they're Christians, why they act the way they do, and who they are, and what Jesus actually does for you, how he changes you, and why you still act the way you do, and why you still struggle with sin and temptation and all those things. Right? That was the first half of my ministry. And people say, I have to get to know me. I've got to know who I am. You're going to buzz me. The key phrase is to know who you are in Christ Jesus. Yeah, that's knowing who you are now that you're a Christian.
Yep.
Because God does change you, and there's a thing.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, after he changes you, though, people sometimes get so focused on themselves and how they have to grow and study and that they stay so inside themselves, they do nothing for the world. I always say they become so heavenly minded that no earthly good, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
And so the
I hear
second half of my talky time as a guy that travels and speaks has been saying, now that you know yourself, get over yourself and pour yourself out to the world. That's what that book is about.
Let's take a break right there.
Yeah.
And we'll come back in a second. We're going to take a breather and come back with our live studio audience, our guest, Brent Gambrell. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
Yep.
We're back. Thanks for your patience. It's always nice that people have patience. I don't know why, but
I don't have any.
hey, look, we were going to talk about. I think we were talking about. We talked about a lot of other stuff while we were on a break, so I'll lose a little track. But I think we were talking about you began to want to talk to people about the change that takes place in them.
Yeah.
When they give themselves over.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, my question would be, why did you feel like you should be the guy that started telling me about the change in me?
I think it's because I come from such a strange, different. I don't come from the church. I wouldn't, I say I was, I went to church until I was 9 and then didn't walk back in the door until I was 22. And so I come from this perspective of, I looked at the church as you guys were the weirdest people I'd ever seen in my life.
That's a pretty good perspective.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I honestly, I came back and the first time I was there, I went, okay, you're making me stand and sing out of a book. There's nowhere else in the whole world where that happens.
Oh, dude, don't get me started. Why do church people have to stand up to sing?
I'm sorry, but I just was like, yeah, make me sing a song. It's the first time I walked in. Next to an old lady I had never met, and you made me sing a song called Breathe on Me. I was like, you are not breathing on me, old lady. I don't know who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then a man stood up, and you can buzz this entire thing, but I'm not making this up. The very first Sunday I went back in church, the man stood up and said, we're going to have a fellowship in the narthex of the annex with the CWT, the WMU, the RAs, the GAs, and the Brotherhood.
I ain't buzzing that. That's just, yeah.
And I went, am I one of those initials? And I had no fat clue what he was talking about. I had to get past the vocabulary of the church to get back to Jesus. It was crazy. That's what drove me crazy. And so I've always taken the complicated theological stuff and try to make it real for people. That's
Dumb
what
it
I
down.
do.
Dumb it down.
Yeah,
That's what
Christianity
we say
for
where I'm
Dummies is what I've always taught, basically.
Okay.
And so that's this book.
Okay.
Goes the book that I wrote called Another. I literally wanted to simply call it Another, so I could say, "Hey, you want another book?" Because Christians have a lot of books. There's another book. People say, "What do you want? You want another book?" Oh, here's another book. It's called Another, but they made me put "Living for Another." It was the publisher that did that. But yeah, it's another book. But it's a book about getting over yourself, because self is the problem, and pouring your life out to others, giving your life away, and you get fulfilled while you pour yourself out. Does that make sense?
It does. It seems like, Brent, it seems like God invented his humans, his creatures, to need other people.
Oh, absolutely.
And like if you're not involved with other people, if you're not around,
you can't
other
do
people,
Christianity on an island by yourself. You can't. It's not supposed to be built like that.
You can't do Christianity, but I think the way he designed it, you can't even really have any kind of existence without
we got to have others.
Some relationships with other people.
Absolutely,
because that's how we're built.
I love that people, and people may listen to you, may feel the same way I did for a long time. I just don't want to get involved in organized religion. I've heard that for so long,
right?
And I go, you know what? Go outside. Well, there's too many hypocrites in the church, and there's not outside the church.
Wait a minute.
There's enough hypocrites everywhere.
Yeah.
You can see hypocrites everywhere. And so the church is filled with people. That's the biggest problem.
Okay, right. I'll agree with that.
I always say, if the church was filled with ferrets, it would be a whole lot more fun.
If it weren't for the people,
exactly,
churches would be fine.
It would be great. But when there's people, that's the problem, and it's messy, and it's ugly, and it's nasty because we're people. But the book that I wrote is about it. Kind of flips everything on its end. Life is not about you. Christianity is not about you. And you'll get fulfilled by pouring out. Christianity is supposed to be upside down. You know, the first will be last. And that's Christian principle. First will be last.
Yep. Well,
the greatest of these yet. Sorry. It was just a scripture.
I know.
So I know
I
that
got you. I got you.
Anyway. But if you want to be a big time, you make yourself less. And so I'm sorry, but that's what this book is about. If you want to be fulfilled in life, I think everybody in the world is looking for fulfillment.
Well,
how do I get fulfilled?
Yeah,
you get fulfilled by emptying yourself and pouring your life out. And I'm telling you, you end winning that way.
You have a friend that you talked about, Zach Johnson.
Yeah.
He's a golfer.
Yep.
And I know from my limited experience with golf, the golf swing is something that is kind of reverse mentally. You do a lot of things in a golf swing that don't seem like it should work that way. You swing out to the right and the ball goes to the left.
Yeah. And if you think about it too much, you've overthunk it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some of that kind of thing going on in well, I mean, I don't know where that came from or why I brought that up.
But no, I get it, bro. It is Christianity. People think about themselves too much. They think about they become, knowledge puffs up. Knowledge. Sometimes I know people that are so biblically filled with Bible stuff that are the most immature people I've ever met in my life.
Well,
and then I know I sit under a tree in Haiti with a sweet old lady who's got life pretty well down. And she just, I've never gotten to a theological conversation with an old man sitting under a tree in Haiti. He just wants to know somebody loves him, and he wants to love everybody else. That's it.
Is this an American thing?
No, it's a world thing. I get to travel all over the world, and we're all selfish. We're all just, So you don't have to teach a baby to be selfish. The first word out of most babies' lives is mine.
Well, what I'm getting at is the tendency for a human to soak up all this information that's in the Bible and all these things coming, and then you get to a point where you start thinking
and that's
more than you can. So I think my question was, is that, I guess it wouldn't be just an American thing.
No. You think you get God down. I've got him down. This is how he acts. This is who he is. This is how he treats everything. Really? Do you know your wife or your husband or your kids that well? Well, he's a living, active being. He's going to treat you different than he treats you. You know what I mean? And so he's a living and active God. He's living. He's got a personality, and he will treat you differently depending on who you are. So you can't get him down. Why is there? I've always said, why is there 15,000 books in the Christian world on child rearing and only 17 verses? Why?
Well, that's the people needing something to do.
Yeah, it's because I just think God wants you to listen to him on a daily basis and constantly.
All those people that wrote all those were probably brought up in a church committee atmosphere, because you got to do, when you're the new chairman, you got to do something different.
Absolutely, and
you got to come up with something different.
That's why when they asked me to be on church committees,
no, it's not right.
I do the "I Dream a Genie" prayer. You know how she used to wink, or she'd just do this, and they'd say, "Brent, would you be on this committee?" Hold on. No, God said no. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't have, that's my prayer. No, he said no. And hang on. He said, shut up too. Don't ask me again.
I'm glad I ran into you.
Yeah.
I have a similar philosophy when they come to you, but will you pray about teaching these kids? I'll just say, no, I don't have to pray about that. I'm already prayed up on some of that. So
it's the same thing when they asked me to be a part of Amway. I wasn't going to do that either.
Yeah, I know the answer when I know what's coming on that one. So how's it going with the book? You wrote the book, and then you went out and talked about the book. Isn't that how book things work?
It's the way it's supposed to.
Okay,
it's the way it's supposed to. But we had a launch for it, and I was, as a speaker, there's a pressure to write a book. You're supposed to write a book. And my board of directors of my nonprofit organization, Brent, you need to write a book. And they wanted me to write a book on Haiti and on the earthquake and on all these things. And I was like, guys, unless I have something to say, I really don't want to write a book. I'm not going to write a book to further my career.
Okay.
I want to write a book if there's something to say. And this is something that's been just burning in me.
Okay. That's what I was fixing to ask. So you feel like this was downloaded to you.
Absolutely.
To pursue, and so you did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good plan.
And I've seen that because people that have read the book have come to me and said, man, you hit me right where I've got a guy right now the guy I talked about earlier that has a radio, he's a radio DJ. He is doing an audio version of the book.
Okay.
And his wife is sick of this book.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
She don't want to hear about it
I am
anymore.
so sick of you, Brent. She told me the other night, she said, he comes in going, I learned this about that. Man, I've been wondering about this my whole life, and it has screwed me up. I was screwed up by my parents. And this chapter right here, chapter 4. And she's like, I haven't read the book and I don't want to, Brent. So, but I've seen it do what I wanted it to do. Some people have come and said, man, this changed my look at Christianity.
The book's called Living for Another.
Living for Another.
Brent Gambrell. More of others, less of you.
Yep.
So if somebody can swallow their pride enough to get over the less of you part and get the book, there's stuff in there that's probably going to be beneficial to them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what it was written for.
Are you still going around talking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Actually, since the pandemic, everybody went off the road. Churches weren't meeting, conferences weren't happening. So but they're starting to happen now, and the phone's starting to ring again, and I'm starting to get back on the road again.
Okay.
I was actually an interim pastor during that time. It's so funny. One of my philosophies is God protects the stupid, and I'm the stupid.
Thank goodness.
I know. And right before the pandemic, a church asked me to come on as their temporary pastor because they'd lost theirs. And I said, okay. And then the pandemic happened.
Wow.
And so I never stopped speaking this entire time. It's been the coolest thing in the world.
It's interesting how little you know about what's coming up, isn't it?
Oh, I know. Good grief. If I am the stupid, I really am.
I think I need to ask you about where you're headed. Where are you headed?
I've got no fat clue, dude. Honestly, and I'd love to say I used to pay somebody to come in and consult with our organization about the future, and we paid big bucks to have them come in, and consultants would do, and it was a wonderful, they'd finish and it would cost several $1,000s, and you'd get a little binded book on your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 15-year plan.
Right.
Yeah. Did any of that have the pandemic?
I don't think they probably.
No. No. And so
Fauci's church might have had it.
Well, he knew.
They might have known ahead of time.
He knew. Of course he did.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. They told me to buzz myself over there.
No, but I say that to say, I've been told for years, that was awesome. I've been told, that's the way you're supposed to do it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a scripture, and I'm going to quote it now, so you can buzz me afterwards if you want to. But
We'll see.
It literally says this. It says that Enoch went and knew not. He didn't know.
Okay.
He walked, and he walked with God, and he knew not. He didn't know what he was doing.
You get a pass because you immediately said he didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know. He didn't know. And I go and know not. I used to go and know. At least I tried to know. But now I go and know not. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to watch how God works. Yeah, do I have a thought in my head and a plan and we do look forward? Yeah, we do. And I know what I want to do. But, with the way the world has been in the past, I don't know, decade, did I plan for an earthquake in Haiti in 2010 when I began? No. And everything has changed. That book was thrown out weeks after I paid that money from that consultant. And so now I go and know not. And that's that whole kind of trust God walk that we're supposed to do when we, as Christians, you're supposed to trust God.
Yep.
Well, how much of your life do you spend if you plan everything? You don't have to trust God for any of it.
Well, I have some friends that plan a lot.
Yeah.
One of them's sitting here in the room. I mean, he over plans.
And you know what?
And that's something to be
I'm
said
not
for that,
against
but-
it. I'm not against it.
Oh, I'm not either, but
at the
I'm
same time,
61.
I'm more flexible than ever.
What I have learned at 61 is I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I get up I can go that way or this way. I don't care anymore because it's never going to be
what I planned.
Nope.
Now I'll have the plan and it's cool. I'll have the plan. I do plan. I write out my things to do list for the week, not for 5 years. Not anymore. I just don't. Not for 5 years. I can see where we might be in 5 years. And I would hope right now that our organization would get better at doing what it's supposed to.
If you were boiling it down, what you want to do or accomplish in the next several years, if you were boiling it down to just a sentence or so, what would it be? I want to see more people really helped in the United States and Haiti and the Dominican. What do you mean helped? What do you mean
helped? In here, I'm not building houses. Here, I'm talking to people about life.
Good thing you're not building houses here.
No. Here, I want to see people get it. I love to see people's lights turn on.
Okay.
And when I'm talking to them, go, wow, that's something about life that will change me fundamentally. So that's here.
Okay.
In Haiti and the Dominican, I want to see people become Christians. Absolutely. That's why we go. I didn't go to Haiti and the Dominican to make them a more comfortable place to go to hell from. That's really why I went.
Right.
I didn't go to we're not just an aid organization. There's a lot of those. So we really are about people asking Christ to save them.
Making a change.
Exactly. But at the same time, I want to see us get better. Right now, in my heart, I hope in the next couple of years, we build a high school in the Dominican. That's huge.
Is that a big need there?
In this particular Haiti, Haitians are poor. In the Dominican, they're treated like third-class citizens.
Really?
They're treated like dogs in many ways.
So they're not only poor there, they're mistreated.
Totally mistreated. And there's these things called bates, which means village. There's these villages. They're owned by the sugarcane plantations. And they're just slums that they throw them in, and they work in the sugarcane plantations, and they don't go to school until they might. There's organizations that have elementary schools, but after 5th grade, you're out. There's no high school, not for miles. And so and there's no transportation, so kids are walking, if they can go, 5 miles sometimes to try to go to school. And so we've been asked to build a high school in an area that would service 20 villagers or more. And we're like, okay, that's worthy. I can do that.
Yep.
And we'll see if we can. That's my prayer. I'm just hoping.
Well, I'm saying you probably can't, but I'm saying he can, and I think he probably will. That's been my experience with that sort of stuff.
He kind of, I always say, he if he places it really strong in my heart, man, I feel I'm supposed to do it. On the other side of that island of Hispaniola, which is Haiti and the Dominican, in Haiti, there's this church that is blowing out the doors. And we have bought a piece of land to build the actual church, because right now the church is 10 walls and 10 roof. And every time it storms, they have to go find their walls down the mountain.
They blow all over the place.
That blow everywhere and nail them back to have church. And they're blowing out the seams right now. They're standing room only because we're feeding. We're providing food distribution every single month through that church to the villages surrounding it. And so people are calling it the church that really helps. And so they're coming by the droves to that church. And this pastor's amazing. We got to build a physical building for that church. And so those are my two biggest goals right now. And I'm a small thinker. You know, I can't change Haiti. I can do what I can do.
Yeah.
Right? One thing at a time. That's the way I look at it.
That's worthy.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And that's in the next couple of years. I hope we get those two major things done, and we're still building houses, and we're still, teaching people, and that's in Haiti and the Dominican through A Door to Hope. And then I hope I continue to travel here. That's what I'm hoping God does, that he keeps me on the road. I'm 57. I just turned 57 Sunday. And I'm going, I can't believe I'm still teaching high school students and still teaching college students, and that people still want to hear what I got to say. But as long as he keeps me breathing, I'll keep talking.
There's this passage in the Bible, or this, I don't know if it's a passage or a story, or I don't know what you call it. My mind is drained, so I'm having trouble finding some words here. But talks about Paul.
Yeah.
Going off on a mission trip, you would call it, and realizing he'd gone the wrong way or something, and turning around and went back. I love that. Don't you love that? You're probably the kind of guy that would love that too.
It is funny because I love when people, are you led to do such a thing? Paul. Oh, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. People say, oh, I feel led by God to do this. Can I just say this? You go read Paul.
Yep.
And we call it his second missionary journey. If you look in the back of your Bible, and there are these red lines. It says Paul's first missionary journey. His second missionary journey? He just looked at another guy and said, hey, I think it'd be a good idea that we go back to all these churches. He didn't say God led me. Yep. He didn't say nothing. And then on the way there, he got sidetracked.
He just kind of said, I think maybe we
should.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good idea if we go back and look at all the churches we went to before. Sometimes it's just a good idea.
Well, you know what? I've ran into a lot of people being involved in a church for 20-something years that are really struggle in their head about finding what it is they're supposed to be doing. And I've run into a lot of people that really struggle with that.
Yeah, and it's analysis paralysis is what happens.
Well, that's a good way to say that. Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. They analyze it so much they don't do anything.
Is paralysis a word?
Oh yeah, it means you're paralyzed.
So I know paralyzed, but that doesn't sound right. You know how sometimes a word doesn't sound like
doesn't stick in your head right. Yeah, but yeah, I see people all the time and they use that whole God's will thing. I just don't know what God's will is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to be a sumo wrestler. I don't even have to pray about that. There's certain discount the stupid, and then maybe if it's a good idea, try it.
Yeah.
I think we really do over spiritualize things especially in the church.
Probably so.
Yeah.
That would be my guess too.
Yeah.
I think we're going to take another little break and breathe for a second. And
your podcast is what, 12 hours long?
It's 12 hours.
Okay.
And,
all right. Well, everybody's got a hobby.
Well, I do this other one called Our Land, and it's about anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes.
Okay.
Because some people had advised me that people don't want to listen to things very long.
Yeah.
And then I read where the most popular podcast in the world is Joe Rogan guy, and he's like 3 hours. And I'm going like, so why am I worried about, why can't I just turn it on and talk?
I was told to cut mine at 30 minutes, 28 minutes
Can
to 30
you
minutes.
imagine if you and I had sat down and tried to contain this in 8 minutes?
Oh, dude, all of my podcast that I have, we have a part 2 and a part 3 all the time, so don't worry about it.
Okay, I'm not. You'll have to come back, I can already tell, because we've missed so many things. Hey, we're going to take a little break and come back, and then you are going to be a guinea pig tonight, Brent. I don't know if you knew you were walking into it or not, but we have a brand new segment on our Young program, and you're going to be our first participant.
Okay.
We'll be back in a bit. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.
This land is your land is my land. Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
If you like a little meat with your vegetables, then you might like our sister podcast, Our Land with Michael Jackson. It's a podcast for freedom-loving, liberty-chasing, common-sense Christian Americans who still believe that good can and will prevail in the struggle to survive in today's crazy society. It's a little bit politics, a little bit social commentary, and a whole lot not woke. Just search for Our Land with Michael Jackson on your favorite podcast app, or you can subscribe to get the podcast and read our posts at ourland.substack.com. Our Land is a member of Our Land Media Group, the America in the Middle.
This land was made for you and me.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Any or Outie, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Any or Outie. Here's Mike.
Man, I'm glad you're our first contestant.
No,
I think that's going to
no.
be interesting.
We'll call it that. Sure.
Okay. It may not be interesting at all, but in my dreams at night, I thought, man, this is going to be hilarious.
All right.
We'll just see.
Okay.
So here's how it works. The announcer there kind of explained it. There are a lot of phrases, Brent, in the world that people say, and sometimes you don't know if those are really in the Bible or they're out of the Bible, which is why this segment is called Any or Outie. We're going to, just as the announcer said,
All right.
we are going to present you with some phrases.
Okay.
And it's your task to tell us.
Is it in the Bible
Is
or
that
not?
in the Bible or is that out? Is it an any or an outie?
Okay.
So,
all right.
here we go.
This is great. Okay.
Here's the first one.
Okay.
Verbatim. Actually, I had my studio audience while I was fixing me a barbecue sandwich a while ago because I was starving before you got here. I actually forgot to get this list together. That's one of the things I forgot, that and telling you 6 instead of 7. But anyway, this just comes with the package. But anyway, so I tasked them with finding a few of these for me.
Okay.
And I don't know where I was going with that. I had a point to that. Oh, anyway, so the idea was to give you a verbatim phrase, and you tell us.
Is it an any or an outie?
Is it any or an
Okay.
outie?
All right.
Here's
I'll
the
try
first
my
one.
best.
Here we go.
He thinks I'm a scholar.
Now, if you win, we're not keeping score, but if you win, I'll send you a coffee mug when I get them printed.
Awesome.
So.
I thought I was going to get your studio audience hors d'oeuvres, which is Swiss cake rolls sitting in here.
You can have one of those too, right?
Those little Debbie's, man. You spare no expense for your people.
No,
It's amazing.
No, and barely flavored water. Okay, here's number 1.
Okay.
God is a fair God. All right, so I'll edit some of that suspenseful music in behind. But now the idea here is to have you talk it through. I would like to have you, because it's a podcast, so people are only listening. They're not watching you frown and squint your eyes and try
God
to think.
is a fair God.
Is it an any or an outie?
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard it actually phrased like that.
Okay.
I'd say it's an outie.
Okay, and
Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know, because they didn't write down the scriptures for me, because they dropped the ball on this one. Are we going to have to call
I'd say
Andy to ask
I
him?
just have to talk that through and say that he's a just God,
Okay.
not a fair God.
So your answer would be that's an outie.
I think that's an outie.
They remember that's
I'm
an
correct.
outie.
I'm
Very
correct.
good. Let's
Yeah,
give him a
he's
hand.
a just one.
give him a hand.
Yeah, thank you.
That was really good.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay,
Appreciate
I think
it.
this is
Yeah.
going to work.
Okay, whatever.
Here's number 2.
We'll see.
Here's number 2. They marked through number 2. Why did you mark through number 2?
Because they don't know if it's an any or an outie.
Well, let's go to number 3. Money is the root of all evil.
Buzz,
Any
that
or
is
outie?
that is an outie.
That's an outie?
The love of money is the root of all evil.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what
Nobody snuck up on you on that.
No.
You saw that one coming.
Trick question. Yeah.
That's years of going to church right there.
That's also, having an organization where you have to raise money.
Okay, so you were right on number 1, and you were right on number 3.
Man, that's awesome.
There was no number 2. There's also no number 4.
So I'm already, look at that. I'm 2 for 5 already. That's great.
Let's go immediately to number 5.
Okay.
A whale swallowed Jonah?
That's an outie.
Is it an outie? Is it an innie or an outie?
A big fish swallowed, not a whale. It's described as a big fish.
So you're saying that the scripture actually says a big fish swallowed Jonah.
Then the word whale is not there.
Yeah, let's go to the studio audience who has the answers because they didn't give them to me.
Yep, it's
an outie.
It was
Look,
a big fish.
This is really good.
Yeah, and you know, you hear that all the time. Well, he couldn't have lived in a fish.
Right.
Well, number one, God could have created a fish that he could live in. And number two, here's the biggie. I think this is just a theory, but I think he died.
The fish or Jonah?
Yeah, because didn't Jesus later say, I'm sorry, but you're going to be given the sign of Jonah. That's all you're going to be given. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but Jesus didn't get sick and get better. Jesus died and rose again. And the sign of Jonah was to die and rise again. Okay, somebody go read that one, people that are listening.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so not only are you stumping the studio audience who put this list together, but you are smacking them around now. You're smacking them around on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to have to do these the next time. So, okay, so you're correct on 1, 3, and 5.
All right.
Very
man.
good. Here's number 6. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. Now, talk it out, Brent, as the suspenseful music plays.
Okay, well, I believe that's an innie because not only is that true in every way, but it's definitely the wisdom that's in the Bible. So
Let's go one more time. I'm going to give you the exact wording so you can really consider.
The rich rule over the poor.
Yes. And the borrower is slave to the lender. Innie or outie?
I say that's an innie.
Let's go to the judges who also put the questions together. It's an innie.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank
Very
you.
good. That's
thank
great. You are really good at this.
You read a little.
I'm so impressed because they didn't tell me that you were that sharp. So I'm really impressed. Okay.
And they probably gave you some good advice too.
If it's any comfort, they tell me that about me too. So.
They think you're sharp?
No, that I'm not.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, now wait. Okay, so you got 1 correct, 3 correct, 5 correct, 6 correct, 7 on their list is blank.
Oh, wow, they're really good at this.
And then 2 is at the very end.
These people can't even count.
So,
wow. You should have your research team get fired and get another research team.
It looks like a research team that would do something for me. Yeah. Is what it looks like. Yeah. Here we go. The final answer, number 2. The final
question is number 2.
Final question on the first ever episode of Innie or Outie. I really like this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm digging it. Yeah.
I like it. Eve ate the apple in the garden. Now, I'm really going to edit some really suspenseful music in this because this is a big one right here. Talk it out, Brent. Talk it out. Come on. I want to hear you. Talk it out.
Okay. Number 1, we don't know that it was an apple.
Okay.
It was fruit. It was some sort of fruit, but we don't know it was an apple, so that would be a no. Did she eat it? She did eat it, I believe, and she gave it to her husband. He was standing there.
Right.
So everybody always thinks that, he just walked up and went, okay, I'll eat it. No, he was standing there.
He was there.
He was there. Don't blame her. Although, I do kind of want to blame her. I think there'll be a slapping booth in heaven. No more tears, but you can slap her because she won't cry.
I think the big question here is:
did she?
Are you saying the word apple is in there?
I think no. The word apple is not in there. So that's an outie.
Are you pretty sure before?
Well, if they're saying it's an innie, apple is not mentioned.
Is he correct? He's correct.
Yes. Yes.
So
on fire.
You 100% on the first ever installment of Innie or Outie.
Yes.
And you slayed. I'm impressed.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Impressed.
I'm
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Innie or Outie, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Innie or Outie.
I'm lucky is what I am right now.
Oh, let's see. Before we go to our last little break here and then come back, we're going to sing a hymn, I believe. We're not going to have to stand up because I get so tired of standing up and singing in church. Why can't you just sit down and sing? Why can't you just sit there? because my feet hurt. One foot, my friend.
I think they do that
My
so you
friend
won't fall
Keith
asleep.
tells me I've got gout because I eat so much meat. So I've got meat foot
There you
on
go.
the left side.
There you go.
And the more I stand there,
But I
And
think
sing.
they do it to break it up so you won't fall asleep, dude.
oh,
know?
well, yeah, that does make sense.
I mean, my Catholic buddies, they got to kneel and stand up, kneel and stand up and sit, kneel and stand up and sit. It's the only
They
reason is
do.
because they don't want to fall asleep.
This makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you enlightened me on that.
Thank you. I'm here for wisdom.
So, in just a moment, we're going to take a brief pause, but on a serious note, in the event someone actually listens to this or watches this,
Yeah.
is there a something you would like to say to them to pass on some sort of encouragement about the world they live in today? I personally believe everybody has something that God gives them in their head that everybody else doesn't get, and it's their responsibility to share that thing in their head with somebody else,
Okay.
to see it in a different way.
You want it now or after?
I want
the
it
break?
right now, and then
Right
we're going
now.
to take a break.
All right. I think the thing that I try to, I think a kind of a key to my life is God won't just use your good decisions to lead you in life. You got a God that's in control, and He uses your good decisions and your bad decisions. So some people say, "Oh, I'm just too far gone," or I just, I've made the wrong decisions, and I'm just down a wrong road." It's not a maze. You don't fall off the maze and don't get to the piece of cheese at the end. God bounces you into His will by using your good decisions and your bad ones. I'm here not just because of my good decisions. I'm talking to people not just because of my good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But some of my bad decisions kind of brought me to the end of myself, and that was exactly what I needed to do.
True that.
Cool?
That's a good word right there.
That's what I want to share. And I use the word share. You're supposed to buzz me.
No, share is
Churchy word. Let's share, brethren.
that is kind of
There
churchy.
we go. There you go. There you go.
We're going to take a quick break and come back, and we're going to sing a hymn with our studio audience and Brent to close it out in good old church tradition.
All right. Praise
Fashion.
Him. Amen. Amen and amen.
Exactly right.
All right.
And Captain Jesus and all that. So we'll be back in a minute. We're just Christians.
Try not to cuss.
We're back.
We are.
We are back. And I'll say that this has been enjoyable, Brent. I'm
Oh,
glad
I've
you
had
came
a great
up.
time.
I think we may have to do some more of this. Something just tells me there's more meat in the casserole there that we need to dig out of there.
Would love to, man. Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime.
All right.
I just like your studio. I think it's cool.
Well, it's comfortable. It's fun. I like it. It's Yeah.
And I want your Airstream. When you finish, just will that to me, would you?
You probably shouldn't say to me when you finish.
Because it's not good.
It may not be the safest thing to say.
Yeah.
Hey, look, we're gonna. I know you got to drive somewhere home, and the studio audience does too. And I live close to here, so I don't have far to drive. But
Right.
anyway, I thought since this is such an irreverent program
Yeah.
on purpose, that it'd be proper to end these programs on a more reverent note. And what better way for Christian humans to be reverent than to sing hymns? There have been so many great hymns written over the years. And so here in the Mike the Baptist hymnal, if you've got one at home, it's page 283. But I've actually printed it out for you guys here in the studio, and we'll end with this hymn. And you guys come on over here so we can kind of see you and hear you and join in the choir here. And we'll just sing this hymn, and then we'll wrap it up, and we'll get back together some of these days.
This is one of my favorite artists, by the way.
Well, I knew because I asked you earlier about who your favorite hymns were by.
Absolutely.
And, you know, many of the hymns I enjoy so much are from the 70s. It's just that. It just is what it is. I'm sorry.
I know.
It is what
Me
it
too.
is. And
Me too.
And I want to be respectful of the church model.
All right, bro.
Why not think about times to come and not about the things that you've done? I don't think that's right. If your life was bad to you, just think what tomorrow will do. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be here better than before. Yesterday's gone, yesterday's gone. All I want is to see you smile. If it takes just a little while. Come on, congregation. I know you don't believe that it's true. I never meant any harm to you. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here. It'll be here better than before. Yesterday's gone, yesterday's gone.
Oh man, the Apostle Fleetwood Mac sang that.
Oh, so dear to our hearts. Thanks, Brent.
Is that about the rapture? That's all I got. That's the question.
That's a rapture.
It'll
all
be
right.
here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll do this again sometime.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
See you next time on Mike the Baptist. We're just Christians trying not to cuss.